Now we've got a pretty good handle on dynamic text fields, but let me close out our preview. I'd like to take the opportunity to do a little bit with the input text field. Now the input text field is pretty much identical to the dynamic text field as far as how we're working with it inside of the ActionScript window. Of course, it has that one big difference in that it allows my user to type into this field. I wanted to do a quick example where we create an input form. Let's say we're going to allow our user to join up with the gardening resource group. We'll need to have them input some information like their name and their email address. Now to try this out, let's first build a little input form using those fields. I'll go back to scene 1, and we've got everything dropped into our home content layer, so I'm just going to hide that for right now. And I'm going to create another layer for our form. Now I've already got a little background created in the library, so I'm just going to drag it out. We've got a movie clip here called Form, and if I pull that out into this new layer that we've made, there we've got a little intro for joining the group and some headers for the information that we'd like to gather from our new users. Now since this is set up in a movie clip as well, I'll double click and we'll add our form elements right inside this movie clip, just like we did on the home content page. Now to add an input field, I'm just going to go to the same text tool that we used before. I'll switch this over to input text, and I can create a field for the first name by just clicking right over here next to it and dragging out. I'll generally drag out the field as big as I want it to be for my user to enter their name properly. I have nearly all of the same properties that we have for dynamic text fields, so we can preset up all of the elements. And of course, we can apply the text format object to these just like we did for our featured flower text fields. Just to try out the input, I'm just going to leave it at the settings we have right now and test the movie as is. First of all, we've got to deal with the issue of that hidden layer that we've played out here. But while we're here, I might as well test this portion of it. We do actually have an input field here. You can see that my cursor is kind of lighting up. If I click in it, I can type, but we're going to need to handle that as well. My user's probably not going to know where they need to type in here, so I probably should put some graphic behind here to indicate some kind of a box. Let's get rid of the preview and let's deal with those issues one at a time. First of all, I'll go to my action statement. Right up here at the top, let's add a line that will hide the home content so that we can work on the input field for a while. All of our home content was built into this MC Home movie clip, and one property of every movie clip is its visibility property, _visible. I don't think we've used that one yet, but it's going to come in handy right now. This is a Boolean property, and I'm going to set it to false. And for the time being, our MC Home movie clip will be there on the screen, but it'll be completely invisible. Now let's add some graphic elements to our form so that we can see where these fields are going to be. Now by default, each field does have a border that you can show, and it includes a background. It's kind of plain looking, so I think what I'd like to do is just add a little graphic behind the text field and set things up that way. I'm going to move my text field out of the way here. And I'm going to bring in this white background that we've used as a transparent faded background for all of these other elements. It's kind of big, but we can just resize that back down. Now just to make this stand out, I'm going to use some of the filter properties of movie clips. I'm going to go in here and set a quick drop shadow. I'll set it to be an inner shadow, and I want to make it very small and not too obtrusive. So I'll make the blur about 2. I'll make the distance about 1, and the strength maybe about 50. Let's see how that's looking. There, you can kind of see that we get a little inset looking field there, and we can build up our graphics on top of it. Now that's going to be just enough of an indicator to let my user know where the box is that they need to type into. And when I set my field up, I'm just going to put my field right on top of it. I need a few more of these, so while I've got these pieces out of the way, whoops, I grabbed my field here. Let me just use an Alt drag. I'll hold down the Alt or Option key on the Mac. I'll drag this down, and instead of just moving the original, I'll make a copy. And I'll use that to quickly make 4 little boxes for each one of my elements up in here. And let's set up our field. Now I can kind of see that this is going to be behind the box, so I'm going to use a modify arrange to bring it to the front. And let me set up a couple properties on this one. It was a little big at 16, I kind of saw when I was typing into it. So I'm going to drop it down to 12, and I'll leave the rest of the settings there. I don't think it needs to be bold either, so I'll turn off the bold. And we'll use that as a base setting for each one of my fields. Once again, I can simply Alt or Option drag this down and create 4 fields. Let's test that out now and just make sure things are working properly. Now you can see that my home content is hidden because we turned that visibility property to false. And I have 4 boxes and 4 fields. By default, I can even use the tab key to move between these fields and have my user enter whatever they want into them.